Hi, this is YouTube librarian Mike J. Dub and Sky, and I'm going to be reading from Putin's biography by Philip Short. The reason why, because it features where on the cover with Putin's name in red block letter. So I don't know within the context of this particular video game whether I would like to read about Putin as a child, but um, let's take a look at the ending. It's called The End Game, and see if we can learn anything about the Vampire Masquerade now from reading the End Game chapter. And I only have a few minutes. I have only 15 minutes, 13 minutes on this trial. It's chapter 18. Let me confirm that it's recording. Yeah. The End Game. In February 2000, a few weeks after Putin became acting president, he was asked to comment on the misfortunes of Helmut Kohl, then embroiled in a financial scandal after having been the longest-serving German chancellor since Bismarck. After 16 years, Putin said, any people, including the stable Germans, got tired of a leader, even a leader as strong as Kohl. It just took them a while to realize it. When Putin's fourth term commenced, he had been in power for almost 20 years. Russia was not Germany. Notions of political alternance were far less well established in Western Europe. Many Russians were tired of Putin, but even more found it hard to imagine anyone else in charge. Rather, there was a deepening sense of drift, of being stuck in a rut, which recalled the stagnation that had marked Brezhnev's final years. There were important differences. The Brezhnev era had signaled ineluctable decline with little hope that anything would change for the better. The boredom that marked the start of Putin's fourth term was not hopeless, but more and more Russians started to feel that change would not come until and unless he decided to step down. Putin liked to claim that he had been thinking about an eventual successor from the day he first took office. He certainly found himself from the outside having to answer questions about his long-term intentions. In May 2000, only 10 days after his inauguration, he told an interviewer, I am not going to be here forever. Sooner or later, we all leave our posts. The following year, he said that he always thought twice before taking decisions, because the day will come when, as an ordinary citizen, you will be confronted with what you have done. And in 2003, he reflected anew, when a person stays in power too long, no matter how good he is, his drive is blunted. He doesn't have the same fire in his belly as at the start of the journey. And secondly, he comes to be surrounded by a sort of camarilla. Camarilla. What is a camarilla? Let me go grab a cell phone so we can look up camarilla.
What is the temperature of the thing?
You'll have to look at the Honeywell thermometer.
No, what does it say on that thing?
22. Camarilla, a small group of people, especially a group of advisors to a ruler or a politician with a shared, typically nefarious purpose. But I thought I saw Camarilla vampire. The Camarilla is a worldwide sect of vampires. Within vampire, the Masquerade bloodlines. It has existed since the early Renaissance. It has been incapable of permanently solidifying its power in Los Angeles for well over a century. Its main rivals are the Shabbat and the Anarch movement, but more recently it has faced other supernatural threats in the form of the Yin, the kindred of the East. By 2003, the Camarilla had returned to Los Angeles, headed by Prince Sebastian Lecroux. The Camarilla was at war with the Anarchs and the Sabbat, but Lecroux had maintained a secret personal alliance with Ming Xiao, leader of the LA Yin. The sect had many supporters, including the Venture and the Charmier were nominally Camarilla. The Nosferatu were very reluctant allies. The Malkavians' allegiance was mostly mixed. In the Gangri, Toreador, and Bruja of the city were largely Anarchs. With the infighting amongst itself and its feuds with the Shabbat and the Anarchs, the Camarilla's presence in Los Angeles can only be solidified or wiped out by the player's actions and choices. So that's... Well, Anarch seems to refer to people who don't want a government, while Shabbat seems to refer to Jewish people. But why is the word Camarilla showing up on page 631, the end game, in the Putin biography? This Putin biography was $40. It was published by Henry Holt and Company. It has a 2022 copyright. Its first U.S. edition was 2022. And this chapter is called Endgame. It says here on page 631, Putin said, when a person stays in power too long, no matter how good he is, his drive is blunted. He doesn't have the same fire in his belly as at the start of the journey. And secondly, he comes to be surrounded by a sort of Camarilla. Camarilla is spelled Camarilla. But keep in mind that the word also has a normal meaning, which is politically appropriate. A small group of people, especially a group of advisors to a ruler or politicians, with a shared, typically nefarious purpose. So this was YouTube Librarian on Patreon, Mike J. Dub and Sky, reading from page 1 of chapter 18, entitled The End Game, from the Putin biography by Philip Short, and a brief little passage from vtmb.fandom.com /wiki probably Camarilla, but actually here it says Prince.